I was looking at information from Iceland and Israel and Massachusetts quite recently, which suggested that the vaccines weren't doing a whole lot for transmission, which makes vaccine passports basically redundant. I had not found where that info was located with regard to the UK, however Robert Peston from ITV thoughtfully provided it yesterday. As someone who has just got through COVID-19, I wondered how rare I am to have contracted it as a double-vaxxed person. According to new data from the government's vaccine surveillance report, in the age group 40 to 79, the overwhelming majority of those infected have been double-vaxxed. I was surprised by what looks like high prevalence among the double-vaxxed. My immediate reaction was, yeah, but you're making the same mistake that everyone makes. You're not taking into account the fact that so many more people are vaccinated. You can't just take the numbers in isolation. So, I won't take them in isolation. This is the report. Here we go. That's the age groups, the unvaccinated bunch, and then the three categories of vaccinated. I'll break off briefly to point out that this is where most folks go wrong. Take one age group, 40 to 49, 67,000 cases among the vaccinated and only 15,000 among the unvaccinated. Almost 5 times more in the vaccinated. Oh my god, Bill Gates, New World Order, depopulation, controlled opposition. Did I miss any? Of course, those numbers by themselves are totally meaningless. However, there is a very neat little resource to the right. Numbers per 100,000 of each category, vaxxed and unvaxxed. This is the proper apples to apples comparison. So what I have done is to flip all that out into a spreadsheet and cut and paste the numbers. These are not the absolute infection case numbers. You saw those in the last chart. These are the numbers balanced per 100,000 of each category. So you've got the same age groups, then cases among the vaccinated and among the unvaccinated. Adding up the vaccinated group, you get that, just under 5,600. Same for unvaccinated, 6,750. So 54.7% of cases are in the unvaccinated and 45% in the vaccinated. It's a pretty even split, 45% vaccinated, 55% unvaccinated. So there is a little bit of reduction in transmission from the vaccines. Not a whole lot, and certainly not enough to justify vaccine passports, but there is some. However, look more closely. If you look at ages 0 to 39, there are quite a lot more infections in the unvaccinated group. Add up each category, 66% of cases in the unvaxxed and 34% in the vaxxed. Remember, this is the 0 to 39 age group, much less prone to serious illness. So yes, somewhat fewer cases in that youngest age group, but still a lot of transmission going on among the vaccinated, and that is as good as it gets. It's all downhill from that point. If you now take the next 4 groups, 40 to 79, and that's what Robert Peston was talking about, you will notice from even a casual glance that there are rather more cases among the vaccinated. 80 and over goes back the other way, but that one's very much evenly split, and I'm going to include it with the others to keep things simple. So now if we tot up each one, that's the 40 and over total in the vaccinated, then in the unvaccinated, which is much lower. So now 44% of infections are in the unvaccinated and 56% are in the vaccinated. And remember, this is the 40 years old and above category. Just under 56% of this large age group's cases are in the vaccinated and just over 44% in the unvaccinated. I'm sorry, could you please clarify that? And more to the point, why are you talking to yourself? In the 40 years old and above category, there are fewer infections among the unvaccinated than there are among the vaccinated. According to this data, in this large age group, while the vaccines are reducing serious illness, according to data elsewhere in this report, after adjusting for total population size, in other words, after ensuring that the comparison is valid and not misleading, according to this data, they are also resulting in more infections among the vaccinated. More infections, more cases. Robert Peston isn't really correct to say that the overwhelming majority of cases 40 years old and above are vaccinated, because that is only in absolute terms and doesn't reflect the different population sizes. Once you take all that into account, he would have been correct to say that the majority are in the vaccinated, and at the end of the day, whether it's overwhelming or not is slightly beside the point, because this then demonstrates that vaccine passes are indeed rather useful to keep the vaccinated away from the unvaccinated, because the former is more likely to infect the latter if they are over the age of 40. I won't put these figures on screen, otherwise it'll start to get too unwieldy, but if you include all age groups apart from that youngest one, 18 and under, then it's basically 48-52 vaxxed unvaxxed, so it's a coin toss. And although that former youngest age group does have the highest infection rate among the unvaxxed at 7 out of 10, they are almost totally unaffected, with just 48 deaths in that group with and without pre-existing conditions out of 90,000 in England, according to the most recent figures. So that group doesn't need to worry about transmission. For the rest, 19 plus, it's basically around 50-50 vaxxed unvaxxed. And for 40, all the rest of the way up, there are more infections among the vaccinated, even after taking into account the different sizes of the groups. So someone will have to explain what the benefits of vaccine passports are when, according to the most recent information from Public Health England, there are no health benefits. In fact, for a large number of age groups, they could in fact have the reverse effect. So maybe the likes of Robert Peston can take his recent road to Damascus moment and use it to extract another slew of panic-stricken lies from the ministers in charge. Don't forget to like the video, assuming you did like it, and this is the relevant takeaway from it, those figures being taken from the latest Public Health England COVID surveillance report.